Okay, all right. Hi, I'm Tusia Lyman, the executive producer of Intervention on A&E. And we are so lucky to have all of our interventionists from the new season here today. And I'm very honored to be able to lead the discussion. So we're here to discuss the upcoming season of Intervention, which is anchored in Las Vegas. We'll talk with our interventionists about their experiences with the show, and we're going to answer some of your questions. All right, so I'd like to introduce you to our interventionists. Joining us are returning interventionists Ken Seeley and Michael Gonzalez, who you guys probably know.
Hi, guys.
And then we have our new interventionists. We have Vance Johnson, Dave Marlin, and Letitia Murphy. All right, so listen, Ken, you've been working on intervention since 2006, right? So why don't you introduce yourself and speak about your time on the show and maybe like a case that has been the most memorable from past seasons?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And I'm so excited for the premiere tonight. It's been such an honor and a privilege to be working with the show for so long. The thing I love about it is that this is truly reality TV. I mean, they just follow me and see what the addicts do and see what we do as interventionists. And it's so amazing to see that unravel and see the devastation that the families have to deal with. And my favorite one that I love so much is, years ago, Brett was one of my favorites where he walked the streets for hours, in Miami, 100 degrees and humid, and fought me and fought me and fought me. And we finally got him there. And he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to leave treatment. And the reason why I love that one so much, because he had the miracle and his kids got to see the miracle. And within a few months, he passed away with throat cancer. But he got to show his kids that they meant more to him than his addiction. So that's an honor to be a part of that.
Yeah, that's right. Ken, what do you think makes Las Vegas unique?
Oh, Las Vegas. Well, everybody thinks of Las Vegas as like the party town. Let's go there to have a wedding. Let's go there to have, a birthday party. We celebrated Eric's 40th birthday party there. But they don't see the devastation of the people that live there. And this season, you're going to be able to see behind the scenes on what's really happening in Las Vegas and how devastating families are living in this major crisis. So that's really going to be important this season that I'm excited to be a part of.
Yeah, and of course the drug epidemic is affecting us nationwide. But yeah, we will get to see kind of there's the side of Vegas we know, and then there's the side of Vegas that, maybe everybody doesn't know. So we'll get to see both sides.
That's what I'm excited about.
Yeah.
Showing everybody that side.
Right. Yeah. So Michael Gonzalez, you've worked on intervention for the past 3 seasons. So why don't you introduce yourself and speak about your time on the show and maybe the differences between our Philadelphia and Atlanta seasons versus the new Vegas season.
My name is Michael Gonzalez. I've been on the show three seasons now, I think. My experience on the show is, it's been the best experience of my life. I get to help people. It's something that I was gifted a long time ago. So being able to help people that suffer is something that I love doing. My experience on the show has been phenomenal. A guy like me on this show is just a miracle in itself. So when I get to be able to help people that are struggling with drugs and alcohol and any other substances that they're struggling with, I mean, it's just to say that I have to pinch myself. I get to do this. This is a blessing in my life, and I get to help people that are struggling. I get to bring hope to them. So, that's for me, that's the payoff right there.
Yeah. How do you think the drug use or the accessibility is different in these regions with Atlanta and Philly? Of course, our last 2 seasons were in Philly and Atlanta.
I think,
or are they different?
I think that they're drastically different. The Las Vegas and Philadelphia and Atlanta and Philadelphia, the despair and the homelessness, everything is in one section, and it's out in the public. Las Vegas, people go to Las Vegas and they think that they're going to go hit it big and have fun and see all the shows. Everything in Vegas is hidden. The despair and everything is hidden. If you're not looking for it, if it's not in front of you, you don't know. So it's for me, I think that the Las Vegas season is very important because people go there to have fun and they think that that's all it is. And there's a whole community of people suffering, and they don't need to suffer. We just need to bring them hope and education.
Yeah, the illusion of Vegas.
Yeah.
All right. Well, many of you probably already know Vance Johnson from his 10 years in the NFL and 3 Super Bowl wins. But Vance, why don't you introduce yourself and, share your story of how you became an interventionist?
Absolutely, guys. I'm so excited to be a part of your team. As Ken, you're just amazing. Watching you all these years, man, just really inspired me. Even though I was struggling in my addiction, I used to watch the show Intervention and be like, oh my God, I wish somebody, as a former ball player, hoping somebody would do an intervention on me. But because I was so proud of myself, I hid in my addiction, and it took an intervention to get me free. Being a former pro athlete, I struggled with addiction most of my career, 10 years, 3 Super Bowls, even trying suicide at times, almost ODing on pills, going to the hospital, using myself into a coma. It was all about trying to cope with life on life's terms. And to me, that was about using. And it wasn't until after I had a chance to have an intervention done on me that I went to treatment. And when I went to treatment, I realized that the platform that I had in my career was leading me to the platform that I'll be doing for the rest of my life. And that's what I do now. And that's about doing interventions and leading those who are struggling all over the country to the hope of help that they can get by seeking treatment. And that's why I'm so excited about being a part of this team right now, guys. It's just been amazing for me to now move to Las Vegas and agree 100% with whatever you guys are saying, because I'm able to be in the community now, and people aren't seeing the truth about how many people are struggling right now in Las Vegas. I'm also working with the Las Vegas Raiders as a uniform inspector. The NFL reached out to me. And so I want to break transparency and let everybody know that it's not just people that are living in the streets that are suffering. Even just the last couple of weeks, there have been former ball players who have OD'd, who've been found dead in their hotel rooms, who are committing suicide, who are struggling with their addictions and dying. And most of the community won't hear about that. But I have. And that's why I'm here to break stigma. And thank you so much for A&E allowing me to be a part of this amazing team with the intervention group that we have right now. Let's go save more lives, guys. Hope I didn't take too much time.
You did. I remember the first time I spoke with you, Vance, about the Vegas season, and you were like, "Oh my God, I created this!" You had willed it into being, and I think you did.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, this is also Letitia's first season on intervention. Hello, Letitia. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us, what it's like being a recovery advocate in Las Vegas, and what it was like working on the show for the first time.
Hi, my name is Letitia, and I feel that Las Vegas has a very high recovery, I would say, market. My previous profession, I worked for the Henderson Police Department as a corrections officer, so I got to see people at their very worst, and now we get to see people still at their worst, but in hopes for them to recover. So what makes Vegas really unique is that the vices are here and they're available 24 hours, 7 days a week. As far as working with the team, an amazing team. They are so professional and so caring and committed. And so I loved my whole team that I worked with. I look forward to working with them again.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, when an episode wraps and we get someone into treatment, the job is not over for our interventionists. Letitia was on the phone yesterday with one of our with our team for one of our Vegas episodes. So it's an ongoing commitment, and I appreciate how committed you are. All right, so Dave Marlin is also a recovery advocate in Las Vegas who worked with us on a couple episodes this season. So why don't you introduce yourself, Dave, and share your experience of working on intervention for the first time.
Thank you so much. My name's Dave Marlin. Like Tusia said, I'm a recovery advocate and a licensed clinician. I've been living in Las Vegas for over 30 years. Half that time in a leadership role at the largest insurance company, and then the other half the time as the CEO of the largest drug and alcohol treatment center. So understanding the plight of both people in need of help as well as the family surrounding them is something I'm very familiar with. The answer to the $1 million question that I got to learn was that intervention is 100% real. I'd wondered about that watching seasons before and getting to participate in some interventions. It was absolutely amazing. I'd like to echo Letitia's comments that the crew involved, the whole team was so professional and so deeply caring. It really made an honor to work with them. And, I will tell you that the pandemic that we've recently gone through has made the addiction epidemic more acute.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's interesting what you said, Dave, about how caring the crew is. And the truth is that most of the people who work on the show, whether it's producers or editors or people in the field or in the office, it's very close to our heart. Like almost all of us have either lost someone because of addiction or are dealing with a family member or loved one who has addiction right now. So it's a personal commitment for all of us, Dave, I wanted to know, listen, the addiction crisis has escalated not just nationally, right? But can you talk a little bit about specifically to Nevada over the last few years? How has it escalated? And what kinds of solutions is Clark County implementing to combat it? I know that Clark County is very active, they're very proactive, and they're very involved. And I think they set a good example for the rest of the country.
No, I agree. Methamphetamine use is spiking again here in Las Vegas, in Nevada. The opiate epidemic is growing. We're also seeing an increase in the amount of overdoses. I've also been surprised by the number of benzodiazepine dependent clients. So we're seeing increases not just in the typical drugs we see, but new drugs. I'm glad you specifically mentioned Clark County because, Marilyn Kirkpatrick is our Clark County Commission chair, and she and the whole commission have been supportive, not just of housing, but also about treatment and helping fund crisis stabilization and pulling the community together, because this is a community-wide crisis. And the fellow treatment centers, we're not competing with each other. We all need to work shoulder to shoulder to help address this terrible disease.
Yeah, I was really surprised and happy to see how active Clark County was, and they've implemented one of the first publicly funded high schools for recovery. So I remember when we were first looking at Vegas, I thought, wow, we're dealing with a community of people who really care and who are really actively trying to combat it. All right. Well, thank you guys. Just to let you guys know, our viewers, our fans know a little bit about the new season of Intervention. There's, all 7 of the episodes focus on the country's most infamous party town of Las Vegas, Nevada. Sin City, yeah, also known as. And we're kicking off with a 2-hour premiere tonight on A&E that features, I'm telling you, some of the most intense and dramatic drug addiction that this series has ever seen. It's heart-wrenching and it's astonishing. It really is. Over the course of the season, the viewers will, they'll get an inside look at the devastating reality of addiction and the impact that it's having on the residents of Las Vegas. All right. So I think what we're going to do now, it is my pleasure to show you all a sneak peek of this upcoming season of Intervention in Las Vegas.
We know that millions of people come to Las Vegas every year to gamble at the famous casinos. Vegas is also a place where people come to pursue their dreams, their careers.
Vegas is one of the fastest growing cities in the world, from massive construction projects to giant tech companies.
Vegas is the land of opportunity.
This is what people don't see when they come to Vegas, the suburbs. Big, beautiful homes with families. And just like every other city in America, people are suffering with addiction.
Get out of this. Stay out of it.
We're here to see if you want to get some help.
People come here with big dreams. They think they're going to hit it rich and they're going to make thousands of dollars, and they end up just losing it all.
In Las Vegas, drugs and alcohol are available 24/7. The accessibility is on every corner.
Las Vegas is synonymous with addiction.
Everybody comes from somewhere in this country and either chasing something or running from something.
But can't run away from trauma.
For the people that live here, there is no escape. This is their reality.
All right. Was that the first time you guys saw that or no?
Me, yeah.
Yes.
That was the first time I've seen it.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Exciting, right?
Yes.
I can't wait for all of you guys, the interventionists, but also for all of our fans to see some of the stories from the rest of the season. I mean, it's really mind-boggling. All right, so I'm going to ask a few questions to some of our interventionists, more rooted in Vegas in this season. All right, so let's see here. All right, Michael Gonzalez, we're going to start with you.
Yes, ma'am.
What are some identifiers that a loved one is struggling with addiction?
I think for me, when I get most phone calls from family members, it typically starts with they're not answering phone calls anymore, and they're not making appearances to family functions anymore. Work is typically struggling. They're missing days at work. It's typically with families is they call me with their loved one is absent. They've disappeared from life. They've really pulled back from life, and they're not accepting anybody else into their world at that moment. So the real big indicator for me is they pull back and work suffers immediately. Those are typically the first two tail signs.
Yeah, and you guys, anyone can weigh in too, if you want to add to anything. So those are the first two signs. Got it. Okay, so Letitia, what are some steps that people can take to start to help a loved one who is struggling with a substance use disorder?
So the first thing I say is acknowledge that there is a problem, but do it respectfully. No name calling, no derogatory terms. Say something like, I'm concerned about your, alcohol use because it causes you to become distant from the family. The second thing I would say is start in your own recovery. You may not be addicted, but if you're a family member or a close friend, the addiction still impacts you. And you want to make sure that you're not unconsciously contributing to the problem. And then lastly, I would say is offer the person help.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it takes a lot of patience and a lot of active listening, and oftentimes the person who's struggling with an addiction may not know that there is untreated trauma that is really at the root of why they're using,
I love what she just said about asking them if they want help. When I help families, I get phone calls all the time, and I always ask the family members, hey, have you asked them if they wanted some help? It's typically the last thing that anybody thinks of. Nobody has ever thought of, hey, maybe we should ask them if they want help. And a lot of times the phone calls are family members just needing direction and offering some help to them because they don't realize that they can.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave Marlin, do you think that that young adults today are more prone to addiction because of the excessive, media exposure of drug and alcohol use?
It's interesting you asked me about young adults because my most important job is I'm the father of an 18 and 19-year-old sons, Tristan and Owen. And I, that's the most important thing I do. At the same time, running treatment centers, I see literally thousands of young adults coming in, needing detoxification, needing help. I recognize that this is a biologically based disease. However, looking at our current culture, our current music, the prevalence of drug use, it has a dramatic impact. So I'm going to say the answer to your question is yes. I do think it is increasing the acuity as well as the prevalence of substance use disorders.
Interesting. And of course, now we're still in a pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic. And there's a lot of isolation going on. And, Vance, maybe you could speak to how COVID-19 has played a role in the acceleration of addiction in the past year.
I think COVID-19 has played the biggest role probably in the history of our country. And with things shutting down in early 2020, it was just a nightmare and people having to be home and self-isolated. I heard that alcohol sales went up 54% in early 2020. And then as it progressed, the overdose with the opioids and the different other types of drugs are up like 90 to 100%. So it's really important for us to just be very transparent so that we can offer help. And like Ken said earlier, this is reality TV. And so people need to know that an intervention is possible and needs to happen. And being a former athlete, guys, when you watch athletes become famous and successful, when you're a young kid, you wonder, how am I going to get there one day? It's the same thing with this show. You got all these amazing interventionists that have been saving lives all over the country. And you got people that are watching the show, even some people like myself originally who was suffering in my addiction. When I watched you guys, I said, one day, God, I hope I can just be that person that's going to be transparent enough to be helping folks by doing interventions. So the last 5 years, this is what I've done. But 2020 is showing who we are, and there needs to be more of us out there. So thank you guys so much for the season. It's going to be amazing how many lives we're saving. I'm so excited. It's almost bringing me to tears. God bless you guys.
Oh, Vance. Yeah, and not just reality TV, but a documentary series. This is all real, and what we're dealing with is very real. Ken, you've been on the show for a long time. What's the most important thing that you've learned from working on the series?
I think the most important thing I learned, I remember years ago, the show would always say, oh, it's some form of trauma that ignites the addiction. And I was like, I've never been raped. I've never been physically abused, mentally abused. And I just couldn't connect the dots, and I was like, what are they talking about? How can it be a trauma? And after doing some of my trauma work, many years later, I realized that the trauma being bullied as a little kid in school is just as traumatic every day, being afraid to go out your front door, as being raped. It's just a different form of trauma that I didn't connect the dots. So I think, now with all these years, I think it's really important that the viewers, all of you that are watching, first of all, thank you for watching, but you really understand that it's not a choice. These addicts do not choose to be junkies on the streets. It's that their gene of addiction ignites when it hits that trauma. And the minute they do drugs and alcohol, it explodes, and they don't have the control. And we have to get them to treatment in order for them to understand that and get the help that they desperately need. So that's been the biggest thing that I've learned in the 15, 16 years.
Yeah, it's a great point, Ken. Like, it isn't a choice. And that's just, that is an assumption that people make. And it's part of the stigma,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Michael Gonzalez, you've also been on the show for a few seasons, last 3 seasons anyway. Do you have a most, memorable or emotional moment with the family during an intervention?
I mean, I have a couple. In Philadelphia with Bill and Alana, that intervention process with them, it was completely uncontrollable. The situation was completely out of hand. But you see the hope that comes into play. You see a little bit of hope in how things progress to the good side when you have a good team. The team of intervention, it's more than just me. It's more than just us out here in front of the camera. There's a whole team of people that really help. And when I got to work with Bill and Alana, and I got to watch the team come together and really help those people, it was amazing. You see the action and the love that we really put into what we do, and the gift that we are given to be able to help people. That was a very good experience for me. This season on Las Vegas, it really shows what interventionists do, in my opinion. We don't just show up and take somebody off the treatment. There's a lot of work that goes into this. Addicts don't wake up one day and say, "Hey, I want to be a junkie," and "Hey, I want to be a prostitute," and "Hey," they don't wake up and do that. We show them that they have trauma in their lives. We bring the message of hope to them, so they're willing to work on those things. Like, that's what we do as interventionists. We bring hope to families. We bring attention to families. We make them see where their part is. There's so much more to the show and what we do. And this season, we really are showing it this season. This show this season is very explosive, and it really shows what interventionists do.
Yeah. Thank you.
Interesting. Can I jump in there for a second?
Yeah.
You know, I just want to break stigma. I'm a man of faith, and everyone knows I'm a Christian and I believe in my Lord and Savior, but I need to let the churches know, and I travel around the country when I share my testimony to let churches know, just because you're sitting inside of a church doesn't mean you don't have a loved one that's suffering with addiction or mental health. Every single one of us do. And so I just want to be transparent and say that intervention is for every single body, even us who call ourselves believers. So if the church is listening, and I know there are some believers, reach out to us, because there are people that need to get help by going to treatment, even if you're going to a church thinking somehow you're just going to be free from that bondage. The Bible says what you're enslaved to is master over you, and that addiction is taking you over. So I'm here to just be transparent and tell the church we need to wake up and know that everybody needs to seek help.
Right. Yeah, you can't pray it away and you can't love it away, because if you loved it away, all the families that we've worked on for all these years are with, you know, if love's cured this disease or prayer cured this disease, we wouldn't have this disease because they love them so much. So great point, Vance, that, you know, you can't pray it away. You can't love it away. You need to go to treatment and you need to ask for help.
That's right, Ken. You can't love somebody out of an addiction. You can only love them through it while they're getting that help.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, that's an important point. Did anyone have anything else to add there, or should we move on to some of our fan questions that were submitted to us through Facebook?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me pull them up. Okay. Thank you guys, fans, viewers, for posting some questions for us, for submitting some questions. Okay, we have John B. And listen, you guys, any of you can feel free to chime in and answer. John B. asked, how do you feel about the decriminalization of heroin, meth, and other drugs that some groups are pushing for?
This is Dave. Could I take this one?
Absolutely.
All right. I first want to say that incarcerating somebody with a substance use disorder is wrong. I think criminalizing it and arresting people, it was the wrong approach. At the same time, I think promoting drug use is also dangerous. So I'm glad we are looking at different policy approaches, because we need to address the substance epidemic differently. The answer to substance abuse is treatment. The purpose of an intervention is to get someone into treatment. And that's why we're here.
Mm-hmm. Of course, you know, the vast majority of people who are using drugs aren't actually developing addictions. But there is a percentage that, like Ken said, there may be an underlying issue or something untreated that then it becomes an addiction, right?
Yeah, SAMHSA says it's 9.2% of us. It's not everybody. It's fine for folks without a propensity to compulsivity to use. But some of us, like me, like some of the other folks here, an abstinence-based approach is something that we need.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think it's something like 20%, you know, will develop a problematic use, and 80% actually don't. But that 20%, you know, it has a big effect on a small number of people. You know, but it's devastating, and obviously the OD rates are up. And all right, well, let's unless someone else has something to add there, I'm going to move on to one of our other fan questions. All right, so Ariel M asked, what is your favorite success story? So we'll have to have Ken or Michael answer this, because our Vegas season obviously hasn't aired yet, so we don't want to give anything away. But Michael or Ken?
Yeah, I think one of my biggest success stories was Huber. You know, here's somebody that's homeless in the streets, doesn't have a place to live. Was years ago, I think like 13, 14 years ago, I think he posted on Facebook that he has sober now. He just bought a house. I mean, here's somebody that is, you know, like Vance says, it's not, you don't have to be homeless to have this disease, but he was where society would tell us he's at his rock bottom. There is no hope there, you know, he's not coming back. And the love of his family, and I always remember how wonderful his niece was, you know, and how she just cried and wanted him back so badly. And that love and that intervention shifted where now he's working in the field. He just bought a house. He's 14 years sober, 13 years sober. I mean, doing incredibly well. And to see where he was and where he's at today, I think he posted on Facebook, if you look him up, a picture of him during the intervention and where he's at today. And it's just a miracle. I mean, I just love that. And I feel so honored that I'm able to be a part of that and all of you watching it. So thank you so much. I hope you love the season as much as we do.
It's so interesting, Ken, that you said Hubert, because he actually has been working with us, helping people in Vegas for the season. I'm behind the scenes, but he's actually been a tremendous resource for us.
Amazing, right?
He's helping others. He's extended it.
Amazing. After all these years, I mean, he would have never have made it much longer. I mean, he was really at his rock bottom, and I don't think he would have made it a year, maybe, if that. And now he's helping people. Like you said, even with us, he's helping this Vegas season. So that's such great news.
Yeah. Okay, so we have another question here. Okay, so this is from Mike E. asked, how crucial is it for people dealing with addiction not to find out about interventions before they actually happen?
It's the most important thing, in my opinion. If a person finds out about the intervention while we're setting the intervention up and going through the motions of finding out what's going to help them best, if they find out about it, typically what happens is they take that as the opportunity to go get one last hoorah in, and that last hoorah typically ends in death. So it's very important that we make sure that we do all the things that we have to do to make sure that we follow the plan when we're doing an intervention, because we're trying to save the life, not lose the life. So we want to cause no more trauma. So it's very, very important that we keep things, we follow the directions. It's very important.
Right. And especially because you don't want them to find out that they're going to get treatment. And I know it's something that we've always, it's tough because, you're asking the family, you're really demanding from the family that they do not tell their son or their daughter, they may know who we are and that we're going to do an intervention, but they can't share that with their loved one because it jeopardizes their life and their shot of saying yes. Yeah.
And most likely a flight response.
Right.
Flight or overdose,
overdose. Yeah.
One of those things are my worst nightmare. That would be a reality. Is and there's many different types of intervention. We use more of the Johnson model on the show, but there's the Arise, there's the Family Invitational model. There's all different types. But no matter what type of intervention is, you don't tell the identified person. You don't tell them that they're going to treatment the next day. The intervention that's the surprise, is that they're going to treatment, because we don't want them to flight, like Dave says. We don't want them to overdose, like Michael says. We want to get them help. That's our goal.
Right.
It's definitely a gift. It's not a punishment. We're not there punishing. I get it. It's a surprise sometimes, but the reality is we're there with a big gift, and we have to let them understand that gift and help them understand the gift before they think it's not a gift, because we're taking away their best friend, which is drugs or alcohol. So it's a very slippery slope that we have to navigate. But as long as we put out a good game plan when we're prepping for the intervention, things go off without a hitch. And that's why we do all these things. That's why we have the team that we have, because it's very important that we do everything we possibly can, because people's lives are at risk.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're an addict and you're out there and that's all you have is your disease, and like Michael just said, your trauma response is shooting that needle in your arm. That's your warm blanket. That's protecting you and making you feel safe. And if you say we're taking away your warm blanket, your safety net, it's like telling somebody they're going to live without oxygen. It's like, that's impossible. I can't do that. And they're so fearful of that. And that's what I love about on the show. When you see them break and cry is when they finally surrender and say, okay, I'll try it. Because they're so fearful that they can't live without that drug, because that's keeping them safe. That's keeping their trauma locked up in that Pandora box. They're trying to protect it. But what they're doing is they release it during the intervention, and they they take that leap of faith, like, I'll try something. And that's the key, is, you know, getting them to try that something different than protecting themselves with that. I call it the addict's hustle. Their hustle that's been working for them since they were first abused or first experienced those traumas.
Right. Yeah. All right. I think we have one more fan question here. Okay, so Rick G asked, what percentage of alcoholics and addicts who continue to attend AA meetings stay sober versus those who don't attend AA meetings regularly?
I don't know the number exactly, but I can tell you that the people that don't attend AA, and the numbers are the ones that attend and don't attend, the numbers are staggeringly low. The recovery rate is very small. The cards are stacked against everybody. They just are.
The evidence in peer-reviewed journals suggests that participation in 12-step support meetings is still one of the most effective ways to stay in recovery. I will tell you, as a survey of one, it's 100% effective.
Yeah, me too. I got 31 years in July. I'll have 32 years sober. And I still go to meetings. I'm still doing my meetings on Zoom. I put my recovery first, period. And in the years of watching, like Michael said, I don't know the numbers, what the real numbers are. But in the years of watching my peers in recovery, the ones that step away from the meetings, some of them may not relapse, but their lives become devastating. Like, there's still some kind of crisis in their life. So I rather just follow the winners, as we say, and go with the ones that are continuing to be successful. And I hope I go to meetings for the rest of my life. I hope I never stop going to meetings, because I want to continue to have an amazing life. And that's what the program has granted me.
I've recently had a chance actually to speak at a Celebrate Recovery, which is starting to open up here in Las Vegas. And it's been really important. So they're starting to introduce it to a lot of churches so we can get back together as a community in recovery so we can hold on to it.
I mean, the 12-step recovery, it's the most important. It saved my life. It saved, many people on this panel. It saved their life. It's the one thing that I could reach to and look to when I was in early recovery. It's the one thing that's still steady in my life. I celebrated 14 years myself a couple weeks ago. So the reality is 12-step recovery works if you do what you're told. But that's as an addict, as a person struggling with PTSD or trauma, listening and following directions is very hard for us. So 12-step recovery is against everything we're in. When we're in our disease, it goes against everything. But it is the one thing that saved my life, so I know it works.
Congratulations, Michael and Ken.
Yeah, congratulations.
Did anyone want to add anything else there, or I think we're coming up on our time where we may have to wrap it up. All right. Well, I would like to thank all of the fans who tuned in, as well as all of you guys, all the interventionists, for speaking with us today. As always, if you or a loved one is suffering from addiction, please check out our resource page on aetv.com, which can also, should show up here in the comments below. And if you know someone who's suffering from addiction, please visit our submissions page, and that's at submityourlovedone.com, submityourlovedone.com. All right. Well, thanks again. And remember to watch the season premiere tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Pacific on A&E. And you can chat with us during tonight's premiere by using hashtag intervention while you're watching. So you can chat with us live. All right. Well, I think we are going to take a look at what is in store for this whole season here by showing you something else.
Awesome.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Excited for the premiere.
There's so much trauma wrapped around your guys' story.
Intervention returns with a new season in Las Vegas.
Everybody comes to Vegas and either chasing something or running from something.
It all starts with a 2-hour premiere.
This is the most dysfunctional family I've dealt with in over 20 years. There's more people in the house, and they're all using.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like they've been lying to us all along.
An A&E original series, Intervention. New season starts tonight at 9 on A&E.